Welcome to part 2, and the finale of What If Obi-Wan Wasn't a Bold One. Thank you for your support on part 1 of this video. If you haven't seen part 1, I highly recommend you watch that first before watching this video. The link will be in the description below. Back in the medical facility, the clones are unsure of what to do. They had received no orders from Darth Vader thus far. Leaving the stirring Padme in the hands of the capable medical droids, they launch a hologram beckoning for his presence. A dark silhouette pops up with a short message, asking for the children and the droids to be moved to a secret location under his care. The fate of Padme was not in his hands. She would join him, or fall. As Padme lay on the bed in pain, she could hear the faint words of Anakin. There was still good in him, but right now, he was too volatile. After giving birth to Luke and Leia, Padme summoned whatever energy she had, and got up from her bed as the clones guided her to her ship, away from the starship she had brought with her. As she stumbled aboard, she could see her children and the droids being transported to a small room at the back of the ship. Now slightly more alert, Padme noticed her surroundings. She recognized the interior. It was a hall similar to the one her friend Ahsoka Tano had described on her journey from Mandalore. The clone shepherded her to the same room, as she moved to a small bench to cradle her children. To her side, R2-D2 was beeping furiously, as C-3PO chastised his companion for daring to come up with such a grand plan. As the clones rested on what was presumably a long journey, R2 gave a quiet beep. This was the cue for Padme, as she placed the children in makeshift cots and made her way out of the room. Quietly tiptoeing her way to the other side of the ship, with R2 leading the way, they moved down to a small corridor to find a medium-sized escape pod. R2 released a timed detonator into the hauler, and the group detached themselves from the ship, guiding themselves to the planet below. Padme was unsure what R2 had planned, but she trusted the little droid, having saved her life on many occasions. Placing her children in the hands of C-3PO, she observed a small interface in front of her, and she could tell that they were heading to a sector controlled by the Republic's 5th Army. She hoped that they would have moved by now. As R2 beat furiously again, she knew that they were entering the atmosphere, but although she was not force sensitive, she could sense something familiar was aboard the surface. Touching down with a soft plump, R2 scans for any life forms, and detects several humanoid life forms nearby. With C-3PO managing the children, Padme summons her remaining energy, and numbers to R2's intended destination. After what seemed an eternity, she could finally make out a distinct group of figures, sitting close to one another. As one of the figures turned their heads, she is astonished to make out the tired-looking Master Windu. What was he doing here? Padme thought to herself. As she stepped through into more open terrain, she could make out the figures of several dozen Jedi, looking demoralized. Windu could sense Padme's curiosity, and began to explain to her that this was the Jedi's emergency plan, were there to be a wipeout of their order. The Jedi Temple on Coruscant was now a smear in what was a high-rise landscape. This was now their home. For the next 2 decades, the Jedi remained in obscurity as Vader began to rain terror on the galaxy, reaching his full potential as one of the most powerful Force users to ever exist. The rule of 2 is no longer in place, as he felt so powerful as to be immortal. He only had a small legion of dark-side users who would do his bidding. Little did he know that the Jedi were rising once more. Back on the planet of what she now knew was Tython, Padme's patience was wearing thin. With every passing moment, she knew that whatever good in Anakin was fading away, but Grandmaster Yoda would tell her to be patient. Finally, the Jedi declared themselves to be ready to face Vader, and whatever he had to throw at them. Taking a large starship, they assembled their most skilled Jedi and exit the planet. Padme wanted to join them, but Yoda insisted that they would be able to bring Anakin back in one piece. With the assistance of defected clones, the Jedi have knowledge of Anakin's location. Heading to the heart of the galaxy, they find a huge space station, one which exuded power. As they approach it, they stealthily glide over the top, revealing a large docking platform. As they land, they prepare themselves for battle as they ignite their blades. The door to the ship opened slowly with a hiss, as the clones stood pointing their blasters in anticipation. Suddenly, they are all forced back by a combined force push, as the Jedi emerge. Moving swiftly through the complex, dismissing any clones who blocked their path, they found a tougher obstacle in several dark-side users. Although they were difficult to defeat at first, they found their technique similar to temple guards, allowing the Jedi to find their weaknesses with limited casualties. Making their way down another corridor, they find a heavily fortified durasteel door. Windu uses his lightsaber to form a perfectly circular hole in the door, and uses the force to push through. As they enter, they look around carefully, watching every step, and see an empty throne at the end of the room. Walking closer to it, the sound of several dozen thuds could be heard dropping to the floor. Out of the darkness emerged Vader, his hand outstretched, calling his crimson red lightsaber back to his hand. Vader warned them not to arrive, or they would face the consequences. The remaining Jedi were not fazed, however, and began their attack. Anakin quickly whittled the majority of them down with mind-numbing speed, as Windu and Yoda could only stare in horror. Even Darth Sidious had not been this fast and skillful. As they attempted to obtain a different vantage point, Luke and Leia emerged with their lightsabers ignited in defiance. Vader laughed at the sight of the two young Jedi, but something about them invoked doubt in his mind. Ignoring these thoughts, he set about dismissing them like the other Jedi. Luke and Leia knew that they were not skilled enough yet, but something about this monster funneled their emotions, as they summoned a power greater than what they had ever achieved. With their combined powers, Anakin begins to strain slightly, as he had not expected such stern resistance. After all, the Jedi knew that Anakin's biggest weakness was his overconfidence. Finally pushing him back into his throne, Windu and Yoda jumped from cargo boxes at the side of the room, and cut off Anakin's limbs with precise incisions. They had promised Padme that they would not kill him yet. Whilst Luke and Leia dragged the hapless body of Vader, Windu and Yoda contemplated the loss of their comrades. It had taken a great deal of sacrifice for the Jedi Order to remain afloat in the previous years, and the corpses beneath them were now the sacrifice needed to restore the Order to its full health. They would not allow their lives to be lost in vain. That is it for What If Obi-Wan Wasn't a Bold One. Please like this video and subscribe for more tips. And as always, leave a comment on what if you'd like to see next. Thank you very much for watching, and see you next time.